Critics of free markets often suggest that they are a Western import for Africa. Is this true?
That's uh, that's an important question. I guess it's a multi-layered question. First, I think we need to think about two things to make sense of that question. First, what free market is, particularly in the African context, and why people believe it's an importation versus why people believe it's not. So when you say free market, of course, open trade that has very little to no government intervention or control, individuals being able to dictate price and exchange goods and services uh, among themselves with people beyond their borders, from villages to villages or households to households. Those kind of trade were innate to Africa. They've been in Africa since the earliest recorded history of the continent. People have always bartered. So yeah, that's on one side. But when you talk about free market in the Western sense, Africa's first significant uh, introduction to the Western style of free market system, apart from the many centuries of cross continental trade between Africans and Indians or Chinese that dates far back. Apart from this kind of trade, open trade between Africa and the rest of the world, the next significant encounter is the transatlantic slave trade, the triangular trade, where European merchants or European businessmen came to the shores of Africa to engage in new forms of trade beyond what they've been used to. Before, we have evidence of exotic animals, incense, um, some other produce being exchanged as a form of export out of Africa with Europe. But this time around, the interest was in human commodities. Uh, so that was a significant landmark in terms of how Africans uh, got acquainted with what we consider European or Euro-American free market ideas. So when a lot of Africans show resentment towards uh, that idea, it has provenance oftentimes in the transatlantic slave trade. Because this was the time where Europe was massively developing, Europe and America and the Caribbean, in fact, were massively developing on the back of free labor from Africa. So that resentment often comes from the slave trade era. So the second part of the question, is this a foreign import? Well, free markets or open market, open trade itself is entirely African. It's not imported onto the continent. However, the ideology itself it cannot be separated from the trade in human beings and the corrosion and the destabilization of Africa's internal market systems by European interests who brought weapons and genes and some other elements of uh, destruction to the African shores, which of course our own kings and warlords gladly bought and sort of triggered more wars among African nations, which of course feed directly into the creation or the further creation of enslaved human beings, easing the way for Europeans who are interested in human beings. So when Africans express resentment towards what we call free trade or free markets, it has origin in this kind of thinking. But also you have to come to the modern times, much more modern times, where the global north has really sort of continued after the end of colonialism to systematically utilize African resources to develop itself at the detriment of Africa. So you have European governments knowing very well that certain African governments are corrupt, certain leaders are corrupt, certain views are not in the best interest of the African peoples, but these European governments, Britain, uh, France, in fact, including North American governments, will engage in this sort of businesses that they know very well are not in the best interest of the African people. And of course, Africans know that. So when they see Europe developing on the back of free trade or open markets or free market, and they know that many of the commodities powering these free markets were from Africa because African leaders were so idiotic that they entered this kind of unfavorable deals. They remember that. So when we come to campuses or when we go online and write about how free markets can be a solution to poverty in Africa, people think about slavery, then they think about this neo-colonial perpetuation of Euro-Africa relations or American-African relations. So those two reasons for me are oftentimes what I hear from people in terms of why they think free market is an imported value and why they think it's un-African.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to follow us on Twitter at @the_IATP. Also, hit the like and subscribe button below and check out our website at www.theiatp.org.